Well, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever your time zone, welcome. This is Digital Transformation Talk, and I am your host, Kevin Crane. Welcome to the show. Today we are here to ask the question, is your legacy financial tech holding you back? The digital landscape within the financial services industry is diverse with variations among different organizations, and many have been making strides in digital transformation. But at the same time, many professionals in the industry worry that the financial sector is behind the curve when it comes to digital innovation and transformation. There are several reasons for this. The regulatory environment certainly is a challenge. Financial services organizations operate in a highly regulated environment, and compliance with regulatory requirements can sometimes slow down the pace of digital transformation. And while many commercial organizations have energetically embraced the cloud as a way to enhance their flexibility, their capability, innovate in their operations, concern about security and regulatory compliance have led some financial institutions to be cautious in adopting cloud technologies. And in the face of this is a great deal of disruption in the market with new competitors and new online technologies that have pushed traditional financial institutions to either accelerate their digital transformation efforts or risk getting left behind. But most importantly, for our discussion today at least, is that underneath all of this is the fact that legacy systems, sometimes decades or more old, are not uncommon in the financial industry and can be a significant obstacle to rapid digital transformation. Upgrading and replacing these systems can be time-consuming and costly and complex, fraught with risk. And as a result, it has some organizations wondering whether their financial tech is holding them back. So what should you do to keep pace? And what are some best ways to identify legacy financial tech challenges in our digital transformation roadmap? And what are some best practices to leverage the cloud while adequately addressing concerns about security and regulatory compliance? That's what we'll be discussing today with a great panel of guests. So get ready for a great discussion today. But before I introduce our guests, I do want to say that, hey, we want to hear from you too. We're all a big community of experts here, and we'd like to encourage you also to participate. So please join in with your comments in the chat section. And if you have a question along the way for our guests, please enter them into the chat feature. That's where I'll be looking, and I will attempt to get some of them into the flow of the show today. And we'll certainly have a few minutes also at the end for your questions. All right, let's bring our guests on board today, starting with Majid Kayvan. Majid, are you with us?
Hello, Kevin.
Hello,
Can you
Majid.
hear me?
There you are. I can hear you. I can see you. Welcome aboard, Majid.
Okay.
Majid is a freelance professional
Hello,
in
Kevin.
open banking and strategic business development with over 2 decades of experience across various industries, with a recent focus on business development and strategy in the realm of open banking. So welcome aboard, Majid. Also
Hello,
joining
Kevin.
us today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having
Majid.
me. I hope to have a great discussion today and learn from each other.
Very good. It's great to have you with us today, Majid. Thank you so much. Also joining us is James Edwards. James, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Hello. Hi, James. It's great to have you with us. James is head of proposition development at BNP Paribas Personal Finance. He's responsible for elevating the customer value proposition on both the business to consumer and business to business side of the business. James, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
All right, and joining us also is Vijay Anand. Vijay, are you with us? Hello, Vijay. Vijay, are you with us? All right, we may be having some technical difficulties with Vijay. We'll bring him on board as soon as we can. Vijay is head of digital payments and payment processing at MasterCard and has a great deal of experience across the payments value chain, working with global payment providers and banks across various payments and core payment systems. All right, Majid, James, and hopefully Vijay will be joining us shortly. Welcome aboard. I would like to start our discussion today, excuse me, by pointing our attention to an article published recently by FinTech magazine titled, "Are Banks More Than Just Museums of Technology?" The article cites research that has revealed that banks across the globe are seeing customer retention rates drop as low as 20% after failing to adequately adopt technical and technological innovations. The survey studied over 300 senior banking executives, product managers, and business analysts across 8 continents, seeking to understand digital transformation processes at large banking institutions worldwide. 64% of banking decision makers have admitted that slow rates of digital transformation have been detrimental to their hopes of acquiring new customers. Indeed, the authors of the study, calling banks museums of technology, and argue that digital transformation is now needed more than ever if legacy banks are to become competitive again. So, my question to the group is, do you agree with this article? Are banks and financial institutions really that far behind the curve? Are they museums of tech? I'll start with you, Majid. What are your feelings about this article, and do you agree?
Okay, it's a really amazing article, and it depends on from which perspective you want to look at the mentioned issues. If you want to see it at the bank side, the important the important point is if you want to spend lots of money to improve and update your legacy systems, so what is it for the bank? I think there are two major items that can encourage banks to update their legacy systems. The first one is what is coming from the market need and from the competitive environment. So if you want to provide your customers with some innovative product and services, so this is what exactly coming from the market. And another point is regulatory forces. In some cases, like as what we witnessed as a PSD2, banks forced to open their data for third-party providers to have access in a secure way and provide innovative product services for their bank customers. So in sum up, what the basic question at the bank side is, what is the ROI? If you want to invest in a particular sector, so how much money I will return back if there will be not change on your income and there is not any competitive environment. So the basic question is why banks want to move on this method. And what we see in the article is even large banks provide some innovative services like as contactless payment. And this is exactly supports my previous statement that based on market need, even this type of bank with legacy systems move to have upgrade in for some of their products and services.
All right, interesting. Now, James, do you agree with the article? Are banks and financial institutions really behind the curve? Are they indeed museums of technology?
It's quite a provocative article, isn't it? To be honest, though, I've encountered some banks that are just museums, full stop, not necessarily just of technology. But you can kind of see why there are problems with legacy systems and a bit of kind of disinclination to kind of upgrade those systems because sometimes they're quite fragile. You've got customers who are using those systems and you don't want to endanger how they're interacting with those systems. And as soon as you do make a change, there is a chance that things will break. You'll have to take all kinds of steps, and you'll potentially lose those customers anyway. So if you're an incumbent bank, you can kind of see why you're reluctant to engage in that technology. But the way that the kind of over the last 10 years, for example, my time at BNP did a lot, and we were reluctant to launch a mobile app 5 years ago, but now everything is mobile. So I guess we are transitioning and we are looking at upgrading all our technology. It's just taking a little bit longer than startups.
And I'm being told that we do now have Vijay Anand with us. Vijay with MasterCard. Vijay, welcome aboard. We've been talking about the article published recently by FinTech Magazine about banks potentially falling behind the curve when it comes to digital transformation and technology. Indeed, 64% of the senior banking officials that were surveyed in this recent study admitted that slow rates of digital transformation have been detrimental to their hopes of acquiring new customers and remaining competitive. Vijay, do you agree with the article? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, I think it is a watershed. It indeed is a watershed moment for the large financial sectors, because the technology is changing fast. The customer experience is something which the customer is expecting, and the legacy is definitely putting it back. So it indeed is a time when the disruption is coming from industry dynamics, and it is becoming a fertile playground for innovative fintech companies. So it is the time where the banks really have to put in and find out a way where the legacy can coexist with the digital technologies. And it is I think it is slightly uh, critical to just say that it is a museum. It indeed is a challenge. Nevertheless, I think the banks have started uh, taking actions, creating those roadmap. And what is important is to really realize that they do have a lot of technology depth. So they definitely need to find out if the right equation of how the complex network of legacy and modern technology will coexist, and how they will meet the customer expectation. Because at this point of time, the customer is definitely expecting better services, and they need to come up with the new and innovative products, keeping in mind what the customer is expecting. And if they do not really upgrade their technology, they will be lagging behind. So they are not only seeing competition from fintechs, but the large tech as well. So it is indeed a time for the banks to really shape up, because otherwise they will become the custodian of customer information only, and the regulations are challenging them to really allow the data for the customer to be made available to fintechs to offer the new capabilities. So, and that is where the magic equation, where the bank has to really find out the ways to work with the fintechs, where it is more about collaborate and conquer rather than compete and collapse,
Okay.
is the way to go. So it is an interesting time for all of us, and we definitely are witnessing something which is going to be very interesting, and it is a challenge for ahead for all of us in financial services.
Well, all right, then the question for us becomes, what do we do about that? And by the way, if you'd like to reference this article, it is a link to the article is or will be posted in the chat feature there soon. So please feel free to click on that and read the article and decide for yourself what you think. But what do we do about all of this? Which brings us to our first discussion point for today, gentlemen, and that is identifying the legacy financial tech challenges in our organizations that may influence our digital transformation strategies and roadmaps. How do we identify those gaps in the process and begin to make inroads into process improvement? James, what is your advice for our listeners today that may be struggling to identify those gaps and those challenges that need to be addressed?
So what we do is we have matrices for all our different products around what are the different features that competitors are offering in order to highlight gaps that we have. That's probably an easier thing to do. And we then research technologies as well, and deployments that financial providers and tech providers have got in place, and we'll have regular catch-ups with IT providers, get a lot of sales people speaking to us about it, but it's good for highlighting what our gaps are and what our potential roadmap should look like. A good example of this is, I think about a month ago, so October, we had an AI event in the West Midlands as part of Birmingham Tech Week. And we invited a dozen or so AI providers to come and talk to us about how they see AI changing financial services. And we introduced those entrepreneurs, AI entrepreneurs, into our top team so they could discuss what are the potential use cases for different areas of the business. That is then moving up into the wider group, so across Europe and across the globe. Now all of that kind of information. So it's just generally just kind of connecting into an external community and then integrating that into, if you're working for a large financial institution like me, integrating that into the wider internal connection hubs that we have, and just generally communicating all of those things. The other thing as well, we've talked a bit about consumer and consumer demand for different technologies. Another aspect is kind of fraud, financial crime, that kind of stuff that's really kind of causing us to generate a lot of digitalization and technical change internally as a business. So we're having to upgrade a lot of our systems just to avoid those kind of risks. Customer data security is another key one. So we're having to, it's not just consumer generated demand for technology, it's also regulators as well. They will, so not only regulators like the FCA or the data regulators, it's also kind of custodians of the wider payments ecosystem as well. So MasterCard and Visa will have their scheme rules, and just maintaining obedience to those rules generates a tech load.
All right. So, Majid, for our listeners that may be working on their roadmap now, working on their strategies, and recognizing that work needs to be done, what is your advice for identifying the challenges and gaps in the process, and what should we do about that?
Okay, very good question, Kevin. I want to answer this question from a fintech company point of view.
Okay.
I see, I can divide it into three different aspects. A cooperation between fintech and a bank. As all of us know, based on PSD2, banks are forced to make this access for third-party providers to their data. But when the banks are not ready from their infrastructure and also security issues, so when fintech comes and want to produce innovative product and services, this is the main challenge between fintech companies and banks. Particularly, we have some of business models in the open banking area, like as banking as a service or platform as a service. And these type of business models, fintech companies should access to the infrastructure of the bank and provide a service or provide a function for the users and customize it. So if they face a legacy systems at the banks, this is not possible. And the second aspect of challenges is between fintech and their end customers. In some cases, fintech provides the services for some businesses, and it's not just individual users. In this scenario, when they want to provide these services for enterprise companies, for instance, those companies who are ERP service provider or MNO or accounting service provider, they face, again, legacy systems at their client side. So this is really a challenging situation that on one side, they have to challenge with bank for their legacy system. And on the other hand, when they market, when they go to another market as the customer, their client, they have to deal with these type of challenges. And finally, fintechs sometimes need to challenge with the regulatory bodies systems. In countries that regulatory bodies want to monitor transactions, so in some cases for their product and services, they have to align with the government monitoring systems and security systems. And this is another aspect of challenges fintech may face. And as James mentioned, the last conference, which was related to AI in UK, some leaders from all of the world, they're coming in this conference, and they have some, they're worried about the impact of AI on different aspects of the society. So in this case, again, fintech companies who want to enter in the AI and ML solution and change something in the financial sector or other sectors, they have worry about the decision of the world leaders. Yeah, these are the challenges I think fintech companies are faced.
All right, so big picture challenges. Vijay, can you drill us down into day-to-day operations and the tech challenges that banks and financial institutions face and how we should identify those and address those?
Absolutely. I think it is a challenge which is...
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Vijay.
Go ahead, Majid. I think Majid was saying something. I'll let him complete, then I will come.
All right. Very good.
No,
Majid,
go ahead.
You can complete. Now, what Majid was saying, that all the incumbent and the large financial services players are facing these obstacles in their digital initiatives. They are seeing inflexible interfaces. They are finding the integration to be really, really difficult. Long development cycle for launch of the new products, new capabilities, which is the demand of the time. And at the same time, the high operational cost. Now, interestingly, now there are a lot of regulatory change are getting enforced, and they are coming at a very, very rapid speed. The legacy is really becoming a challenge, or the applications, the large cycle time for development is becoming a challenge for the banks to really meet those deadlines. So that is where it is important for all the financial services player to start looking at their core platforms, how to think about it as the digital first platform. That this enables the straight through processing, optimize it can improve the efficiency, they can reduce the batch dependency. And what is most important is how do they focus their initiatives on creating the API layer and orchestration layer, because it is no longer banking standalone is a service is going to exist. It is the time of embedded finance, where every banking need to be coming along the journey of any activity which the end user is doing. So that is where it is about marketplace development, where bank is a part of that larger ecosystem. And only thing which can really give the customer what they are looking for is their ability to integrate with the different fintechs, with the different non-financial services players, because you cannot exist. People do not go to bank just for their banking needs. It is becoming a way of life. People hardly want to visit the bank. Bank need to really take care of all the data which they have. So integration issues, how do they improve the efficiency on the operations, and how do they use the data? Because that is the power. Data is the power that hasn't been used by the bank thus far. So and if you look at whether it is about the fraud, whether it is about the compliance, and also about thinking about the new capabilities that can be offered to the customer, it is the power which hasn't been used to the fullest extent. So it is the time for the banks where they have started looking at the assets which they have. They are trying to come up with the capabilities where they can have those data stores. They're trying to create the data lake, which can be used for different purposes, and how easily and nimble their technology can be, so that they can integrate with the larger ecosystem.
All right, gentlemen, we do have a comment here that kind of leads us to our next discussion point. This comment from William Johnson. William, thank you for your contribution today. William says it's a tough scenario for large institutions. They have to balance stakeholder performance against the expense of digital transformation projects. Typically, nothing is really broken. They aren't providing newer services to the customer base. digital transformation requires a huge amount of data analysis and normalization and migration and so forth. The largest risk to the bank, in my opinion, Tom, is this long-term effect of what he calls benign neglect. Benign neglect. I think that's an interesting way of putting it. And my question to the group is, what is the reason for this benign neglect, if you will? Does it come down to cybersecurity and the concerns about cybersecurity that are really holding banks and financial institutions back? Why do we have this gap? I'm still curious why financial institutions are behind the curve and this benign neglect, as it's been put. James, what is your thought about this? Is it cybersecurity and compliance that is really holding the industry back?
I'd say kind of, but maybe indirectly. It's really hard to launch a bank. So that might be one reason why there's not that kind of competitive pressure to exert there. And we're starting to see kind of competitors coming in from other angles. So that might generate that competition for banks to respond to. But, once, we're pretty fixed in the number of banks we've got. Some leave, some stay, some come along. But there hasn't been a major kind of new bank into the UK market for a few years. So that might be one reason why we haven't got that pressure. Consumers aren't. Consumers do like the new technologies. But if you compare if you just go on one of the app stores now, the app store of your choice, and look at the app ratings for the different banks, there isn't that much difference. Considering the amount of features that are different for each bank in the UK. The actual app scores that you get, it's more around reliability and things like that. That's more what customers seem to demand. And then the compliance angle from a fraud perspective is probably what drives the kind of the back end systems to improve. So that's kind of why we've got that kind of benign neglect. And I think it's a really nice way of putting it. Some are more neglected than others. So, but we've seen, I think we can be a bit too hard on some of the banks. They have, if you compare what the user experience was 5 years ago to what it is now, most of the major banks now have apps. Registration in a day in most cases. So, they're doing their best. It's hard.
Well, it definitely is, and James. It is not easy.
Go ahead, please.
It is not easy because, it is not easy. I completely agree, because one thing which still associates the customer with bank is the trust. They still trust the bank much, much more than the fintechs. And that is where the magic is about having that working together, where you can have the approach of creating new capabilities, new services, new offering for the customer as per their needs. But you definitely cannot afford to lose the trust, because that is an asset. That is something which fintechs will never have. The amount of trust which people have, because they are putting their lifetime earnings in the bank, and they are completely assured that it is something which is there. And at this point of time, one of the most important thing which the banks are worried about is how do they keep the technology roadmap afresh, so that that doesn't become a challenge, and they're not subjected to that the cyber challenges, because the cyber crimes are on rise, AML challenges are on rise. There is huge amount of investment which the banks have to make on these fraud challenges. So naturally, it is something which is keeping all of us awake at any point of time, because the last thing which any financial services big player can afford to do is to lose the trust.
Yeah. Majid, do you agree?
Kevin,
yes.
I want to add something. Data was sensitive. Data is sensitive, and data will always sensitive. And in the trends of open economy, we started with open API, and then we had open banking, and then we are now talking about open finance. And the next station is open data. So while in the open banking, we are working with financial data at the bank side. In the open finance, it's expanded to the other sectors of financial institute like insurance and capital markets. But at the end station, which is open data, even health sector and energy sector and travel and tourism sector are coming on the table. So if I want to say that the value and sensitive of health data is not less than, for instance, financial sector, so it's not something wrong. This is why I want to emphasize that security of data is really important topic. And even when PSD2 was adopted by a European Parliament on 2015, it was enforcement for open banking implementation up to 5 years later. It means it was enforcement to implementation in some countries even in 2019. So what was the reason for this delay? Of course, legacy system and providing a secure connection to access data. And the movement from PSD2 to PSD3, one of the main factors which is considered is data security, strong customer authentication or SCA, using OAuth protocol, end-to-end transaction and data encryption. So this is what all of us believe, that data security is very important, and the banks as a data holder are responsible to keep this security, even if a fintech makes a mistake and cause data leak. And based on regulatory documents, bank is responsible to answer this issue.
All right, we
Absolutely,
are here today.
and PSR is the greatest example for that. Because I wanted to add one point, because the liability of the bank is always there, and PSR is definitely one of the hot topic of discussion, where the liability for any authorized payment kind of fraud to be divided, even if the banks are not directly responsible for that data violation. So it is something which regulations are also being put in place, and that is why the banks really need to be very, very focused on how they create a system which is secure, resilient, and secure.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, we are here today with Majid Kayvan, James Edwards, and Vijay Anand. We're talking about legacy financial institutions and financial infrastructure. Is it holding digital transformation back? If you have a question for one of our guests, please feel free to drop it into the main chat, and we will attempt to get to those questions here in just a moment. Now, gentlemen, in the time that we have left, I do want to touch upon the cloud transition of legacy financial institutions, whether or not legacy tech is dictating our cloud transition strategy. James, what is your feeling about the migration to the cloud in the financial services industry? Is it behind the curve, and if so, why?
So yeah, it's behind the curve, but probably for good reasons. So our company has gone through a big journey with cloud. There is that kind of perception that you're giving the customer data, you put it in the public domain. So you have to be very careful with the kind of cloud setup that you have. So it's taken us a while to come up with the right way to structure that. But I think we're in a good place now, and we're not alone in the banking sector. And now it's how do we optimize that kind of framework that we have, and that cloud capability, and leverage that to create something without compromising our legacy, our core. So the worst thing that we could possibly do is migrate those customers to different tech platforms and cause issues for those customers. So we're looking at ways and models in order to kind of transition to different tech platforms using like sandboxes and things like that. So I think that's one of the key things that I want people to take away is think kind of laterally. Don't try and disrupt the core and have long projects that take years and years and years, and try and create kind of proof of concepts and create sandbox environments where you can test some of this technology in a safe kind of way that limits the customer exposure.
Interesting. Now, Vijay, you are head of digital payments and payment processing for MasterCard. Tell us a little bit about MasterCard's transition to the cloud and your philosophies behind that.
I think this is something which is one of the key focus for us, because as you understand, right, all the legacy financial tech, because of the legacy, they are tightly coupled to the on-prem infrastructure, and it is not easily compatible. So we have to be very careful as we have to navigate the journey of the cloud migration. One of the things which probably what we are trying to do and is to look at the different on-soil requirement which is coming from different geographies. That is an opportunity which we have taken, and where we are identifying a very careful mix of how do we really identify the applications which can be moved to cloud. So this is something which is a challenge for definitely for not only for us but for the entire financial services, because the data, as you know, financial data is something which we are very, very worried about when we put it on cloud. And that is where we are trying to take a approach where we are focusing on the private cloud approach for some of the data which is very, very sensitive in nature. But it is something which is definitely on the cards, because it definitely is in our roadmap, and we are navigating through very, very carefully with a lot of focus and resolve that it is the future.
Majid, I read not long ago some research about organizations, not just in financial services, but across the board, actually making the decision to move back to on-prem systems from having migrated to the cloud for some of these reasons that James and Vijay are mentioning. Is that your experience as well, Majid?
Well, regarding each of these approaches, we have pros and cons. And if I want to talk about advantage of this migration from on-premise approach to cloud approach, the first thing which is coming in my mind is cost saving. So instead of spending lots of money on hardware, software systems, and even set up your own data center and maintenance all of these items, you can switch to the cloud structure. And in one word, instead of investing on the capex, you can focus on your opex. And also you have scalability, flexibility, and collaboration with some digital platforms around the world. And another advantage of using cloud is a disaster recovery. In case of facing these type of troubles, so you are not responsible to solve it. There is another company who is your provider. And also IT man can focus on innovation instead of maintenance and keeping update these software, hardware, and so on. But beside these advantages, we have also some disadvantages. The first one is the main topic of our today discussion: legacy systems. Integration between legacy systems at the financial institute with a cloud system. This integration is really hard because in some cases at the bank side, we have so many departments that they have some silo for each other. And this spaghetti situation and integration with new and modern technologies are something really difficult. But I want just to highlight two main reasons of disadvantage of in this section, and that is data privacy, which is coming from regulatory bodies, and in some cases, political issues may deny players to move to the cloud services. But beside legacy systems, I want to talk about legacy mindset and legacy cultures. In some cases, IT guys, it seems they married with these legacy systems and they don't want to divorce it. They want to keep it for every time. And this can be also a gap of talents in this regard. So these are the issues that I experienced during my work experience.
Legacy technology and legacy mindsets. That's an interesting way of putting it, Majid. All right. We have reached the action item round of the program today, gentlemen. I'm wondering if you could please provide us with a quick action item that our listeners and viewers can use to take advantage of the ideas and advice today. Majid, do you have an action item for us?
Well, I think to improve the services, particularly in the financial sector, we need a collaboration and cooperation between all of the ecosystem players, particularly between fintech and banks and regulatory bodies. And if we cannot reach this collaboration, the race of the innovation will not be fast, particularly between major players and regulatory bodies. All of us know that banks and regulatory bodies are very slow. It's something, a fight between elephant and ants when we are talking about the relationship between fintech and these two sectors. But I hope we witness collaboration between all of these ecosystem players. And finally, the 2 points that I can mention is our legacy system can be solved from two major issues: a market need and regulatory force.
Thank you, Majid. That is very helpful. James, do you have an action item for our audience today?
Yeah, but a little bit less techy. So download the leading banks' mobile apps, take screenshots, document it all up and create a prototype for those, and then identify where your proposition differs from those. So that should be like a starter for 10, really. That should be what everyone has. And if you don't have it, then you're going to be left behind.
Nice. Thank you, James. And VJ, action item for us today?
I feel that the banks need to start focusing on the customer rather than the product. I think the focus all along has been bank has been trying to do what they do the best rather than worrying about what the customer needs. So I think the banks need to adapt to the changing customer taste. They definitely need to seek the digital first approach, which will help them pursue new revenue stream through launches in almost near new real time and value added services, because that will make sure that it will help them pursue in a very crowded marketplace to really have a place where they can really dictate the terms and they can lead the large along with all the fintechs and all the non-traditional or non-financial services player, where they can where they can be the leader for that the market ecosystem which we are talking about.
Very good. That is VJ Anand, head of digital payments and payment processing for MasterCard. Also with us today, James Edward, head of cards and payments for BNP Paribas Personal Finance, and of course, Majid Kayvan, open banking and strategy and business development expert. Majid, James, VJ, thank you so much for being with us today. Your ideas and perspectives were spot on. I hope that we get a chance to talk again soon. And to everyone joining us today, thank you too. Join us again next time. We'll be back December 5th at 1600 BST when we will talk with another great panel of experts about working with partners to deliver transformative change. That should be another great discussion, so stand by for that. If you'd like to find me, you can do so at LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect there. You can check me out. I'm Kevin Crane. And check out my weekly audio podcast, the Digital Transformation Podcast. But for now, that'll do it for this episode of Digital Transformation Talk. And until next time, I am Kevin Crane. Thank you all for watching.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.